Despite the sanctions imposed by Western countries, the Russian economy grew by 3% in 2023. According to IMF revised data, economic growth in Russia in 2024 is likely to exceed 2.6%. In terms of figures, it's more than the European countries and the US economy. The Russian president recently informed that the foreign debt is decreasing, which signifies financial stability. He said the fixed capital investment also rose by 10% in 2023, which indicates there will be sustainable growth in the medium term, adding that investors will provide funding, then production will expand and new jobs will be created. Industrial production in Russia increased 4.3% in November 2023 over the same month in the previous year. The Russian unemployment rate has also decreased since 2020 and stands at a current low of 2.9%. According to the Russian Central Bank, Russian debt has been reduced from 46 billion US dollar to 32 US billion dollar, and private foreign debt has also decreased from 337 billion US dollar to 297 US billion dollar. Profits at enterprises surged by 24%, with banks projected to earn over 34 billion US dollar, while salaries are also on the rise. IMF also confirms that the Russian economy is on the rise despite the unprecedented amount of sanctions imposed on the country amid its special military operation in Ukraine, which started in February 2022. So how is Russia maintaining such a wonderful growth rate despite the unprecedented sanctions imposed by the Western countries? There are two types of factors driving the Russian economy despite the sanctions: internal factors and the external factors. Let's talk about the internal factors first. The country has reserves of almost all known natural resources on its territory. Also, the country has well-developed industries in all economic sectors and can produce everything necessary for itself. Russia's agriculture sector produces enough food for domestic consumption and exports. Russia also turned out to be well developed in technology. It is one of the few countries with its own search engine, social network sites, and mail agents, etc. Russia also has its own well-developed financial system, which ensured the circulation of money flows when the country was cut off from the global payment system SWIFT. Russia's large population makes the country an attractive market, and domestic industries have to work at full capacity to feed, clothe, and accommodate nearly 146 million people. Now let's talk about the external factors which are helping the Russian economy to withstand sanctions. The world has changed a lot now, and the role of the Western countries turn out to be not so important. Russia has good relations with many big countries such as China, India, Turkey, etc., which are big markets, and this allowed Russia to get out of these economic sanctions with less damage. Russia also sells goods that only a few countries have, especially energy resources, which ensures income in foreign currencies. Here we can see the value of fossil fuels exports from Russia to other countries after the EU bans till the end of 2023. The export data of different fossil fuels: coal export. China has imported 40% of the all Russian coal exports since the EU's ban on 5 December 2022. They were followed by India 20% and South Korea 13%. Crude oil export. China was the largest crude oil buyer, purchasing 45% of Russia's crude oil, followed by India 32%, the EU 8%, and Turkey 4%. Since 5 December 2022, EU imports of crude oil have arrived via sea to Bulgaria and via pipeline for the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. LNG exports. The EU was the largest LNG buyer, purchasing 49% of the Russia's LNG exports, followed by China 23% and Japan 18%. No sanctions are imposed on Russian LNG shipment to the EU. LPG export. Turkey was the largest LPG buyer, purchasing 55% of the Russia's LPG exports, followed by the EU 35%. The EU imposes no sanctions on LPG imports from Russia. Oil products. Since the EU's import ban on Russian crude oil, Turkey is the largest buyer, purchasing 24% of Russia's oil products, followed by China at 12%. And at last, pipeline gas. The EU was the largest buyer, purchasing 36% of the Russia's pipeline gas, followed by Turkey 31% and China 28%. No sanctions are imposed on Russian pipeline gas imports into the EU. So what happened to the price cap imposed by the G7 countries on the Russian oil? The price cap imposed by G7 countries was not enforced immediately, and Russia had enough time to prepare, and they were able to ship a significant number of tankers to bring the Russian oil to their new customers. Russia also uses a shadow fleet to serve its oil export. There is also pipeline export to China and some European countries. In December 2023, the head of the Russian Central Bank, Elvira Nabiullina, was named the Destroyer of the Year by the Politico media outlet for mitigating the consequences of unprecedented Western sanctions against the Russian financial sector. Commenting on winning the nomination, Nabiullina said the Russian economy is quickly restructuring amid sanctions, and this became possible due to its market character. Thank you for watching.